I was saying to somebody recently, I'm not sure I trust people anymore who aren't a little bit funny. Comedians can read a room.
What a crazy power to have. What an unbelievable thing to be able to do with just your words.
I think comedians are at the top of the food chain because you don't have a band. You don't have a tambourine. You just have the read of the room, and the material has to be really funny.
When it comes to podcast cringe, there's nothing quite like seeing a larger-than-life celebrity guest go on Joe Rogan's podcast to promote their latest thing, only to get absolutely annihilated by the viewers. What could be more perfect than seeing a has-been rock star and a never-been-funny comedian exchanging war stories from a battle that was never fought? Sure, we all love to see Bert Kreischer embarrass himself with his endless drunken delusions, or Tom Segura accidentally break character and remind us how much of a rich arsehole he is who hates poor people. Or maybe it's Andrew Schultz having an epiphany about something completely obvious, or Brendan Schaub opening his mouth and saying literally anything. But we can always rely on Rogan to deliver the most out-of-pocket interviews, and the absolute cherry on top is when Rogan doesn't realize his guest is feeding his ego by playing along with the whole comedian thing. This episode had everything. If Tone Deaf was a podcast, this was it. What could possibly go wrong when one of the richest artists in the world flies in on his private jet to sit down with the richest podcaster in the world in a fortified studio held down by elite security teams to lecture all of us about how we should be doing more to solve the world's problems? But Rogan's always had these kinds of episodes from time to time. Think back to when he had The Rock in the studio a couple of years ago, or the string of billionaires he had on, where they huff each other's farts and politely ask for more. However, it seems like these episodes where Rogan and his guests get a massive backlash are happening more and more in the last 6 months, which no doubt has contributed to JRE's viewership dropping by over 70% on average compared to last year. If Rogan ever needed to read the comments, now would be the time. Skip's podcast goes directly to comments. I had no idea Bono was so disliked. Not seen a JR video get ratioed this quickly. What's the difference between God and Bono? God doesn't think he's Bono. I'm Irish from Dublin and I'm fucking sick of Bono pontificating. He annoys the Irish. Bono is one of the world's most important human beings, and if you don't believe me, you can ask him yourself. On behalf of Ireland, we're sorry. We're so very, very sorry. After just reading the first half a dozen comments, I already felt sorry for Bono's public relations team. This appearance on JRE was an absolute disaster. At the time of recording, it had 10,000 likes against 12,000 dislikes, with almost 10k comments as well. Clearly, people were not happy, and it didn't take long to figure out why.
Americans, no matter what political color, they just you see them just the size they just grow in stature when they know they're being useful, because we really, really, really need you. The world, we need America. Sometimes it takes putting your money where your mouth is to show what freedom is. America did that. We owe America. And we need you. That's all I want to say. We need you, and together, wow, it's just part of the blessing of America. It's this, okay? So it's less than 1%. It's half of 1% of the government budget to keep all these people alive all over the world. They love America. Because they love America, they're not going to be a problem for America. They don't love it. It takes them away from terrorism, takes them away from anti-Americanism. There is a bigger blessing out there. There's just a bigger blessing. And
there most certainly is.
And it sounds like you're in it.
I'm no expert, but one thing I do know about Americans is that they don't like it when foreigners blow smoke up their asses and then start lecturing them about their responsibilities to the rest of the world. That's why I started a whole channel dedicated to shitting on American comedians. And it all stems from Bono's advocacy for the eradication of poverty and disease in third world countries. He's been quite outspoken over the last 20 years on the political, social, and economic issues that African nations face. But the whole be kind, love one another, and give us your money mantra has fallen on deaf ears. It's kind of like how uber-rich celebrities preach about decreasing our carbon footprint, then fly around the world on private jets while sipping on champagne without even a hint of irony. Or how world leaders fly in on jets for a meeting that could have been a Zoom call to decide how the rest of the world can decrease their energy consumption and save the environment. The hypocrisy rubs people up the wrong way. But I don't follow a lot of that stuff. My main issue with Bono is how his band U2 and Apple conspired to commit one of the biggest album release fails of all time by dumping their album Songs of Innocence for free on all iTunes accounts, which you couldn't delete. So like I said, the hate for Bono runs pretty far and wide, which is what happens when celebrities bite off more than they can chew and develop an overinflated sense of entitlement and self-worth. By the way, if you want more podcast cringe, make sure you check out my second channel, Podcast Cringe Bites, where I post more frequent, shorter videos to keep you guys entertained in between meals. Shout out to all of you who already went over there and subscribed. I'm glad you guys are loving it. And so with all of that background in mind, it doesn't take a genius to guess what would happen when Bono finally went on Rogan's podcast.
Well, we're in danger.
We're in danger, but you did say on one of your recent podcasts, you were saying, hold on a second, still more people got access to water and heat and or air conditioning than have in the history of the planet. So we just don't want to lose that.
I get what they're trying to say, but nothing gets under my skin more than rich celebrities telling us to be grateful for what we have and then telling us we need to do more to help others in the next breath. The endless pontification about how to solve the world's problems is so fucking insufferable and played out at this point. But here's a funny thought. Is this the podcast that Bono was referring to just then?
We got into comedy when it wasn't a job. It was like,
Right.
It was weird. It was like joining the circus.
It was.
And I only got into comedy because I got discovered by Rolling Stone magazine as the #1 party animal in the country. I mean, what are the odds of my life tracking out? So that's why I named it Lucky.
Well, we're all very lucky. If you're listening to this, you're very lucky because you can hear. How about that?
Yeah.
If you're watching it, you're very lucky that you can see. You're very lucky that you can afford a phone. You're very lucky. Like most of the world lives in utter poverty. And that's the unfortunate reality of all these people virtue signaling about the 1%. Like, bitch, you're in the 1%.
Picturing Bono listening to Joe and Bert will forever be etched into my brain. Imagine the slow nodding of the head while puffing on a cigar and sipping on some iced tea, and then saying out loud, even though nobody else can hear him, yeah, people really should be more grateful, while staring out the window of his private jet with rose-colored sunglasses on. Literally. But let's put all of that aside because there's more important things to deal with here. What happens when you put a rock star and a comedian in the same room and tell them to have a 3-hour conversation? Apart from all the mandatory fart sniffing, they will inevitably start comparing their respective art forms together. We've seen it before when Bert Kreischer did a podcast with Travis Barker, or when Joe Rogan tried to convince Woody Harrelson to become a stand-up comedian not so long ago. And so after Bono had finished sending his virtual hat around the room for cash, Rogan told him a story about getting high and listening to his music.
A long time ago, probably 25 years ago, I was on mushrooms with a friend of mine, and we were laying on the side of this hill overlooking this canyon, and we played In God's Country.
Oh, wow.
It was just the peak of the mushrooms and the songs, the melody, the way that song hit. It gave me this insane appreciation for things. Like at that, it was like this very unique fusion. Mushrooms bring out this like loving, like communal quality, like happiness and joy, and just lying in this field, looking up at this canyon and hearing that song. It was like, this is what music does. It takes these moments and wherever they're at, it breaks them through the membrane into this new place. Like this moment, it broke through this membrane and brought me to this. I think about it all the time.
Don't worry, Joe, I remember my first beer as well. But keep that story in your back pocket, guys, because it's going to come up again at the end when Rogan educates Bono on the fine art of stool humping. They actually spent quite a bit of time dissecting the genius of stand-up comedy, and it all started with this one question. And just a quick warning to anyone new here, we're about to descend into some deep cringe territory here.
Who do you think's the funniest world leader?
Oh my God. Yeah, that's a really good question.
It's got to be Trump. He's the funniest.
Well, he has the thing that a lot of stand-up comedians have, which is he can say the thing in the room that no one else is going to say.
Right.
And that generally creates a laugh. I also think he mightn't be able to take a joke.
Well, he's not good at that. He doesn't enjoy a joke coming his way. No, he doesn't.
I mean, Zelensky's actually a comedian.
Right.
I met him before he became president.
He played piano with his penis on television.
It was quite a piano.
I mean, it's funny to go from playing piano with your penis to becoming the president of the Ukraine.
Becoming the president of the United States.
Yeah,
by all
right,
accounts.
right.
Comedians can read a room. I mean, performers. I think comedians are at the top of the food chain because you don't have a band. You don't have a tambourine. You just have the read of the room, and the material has to be really funny.
Ah, shit, here we go. They're just jokes, people. It's not that deep. I can't wait for the next episode of Flagrant where Andrew Schultz spends 30 minutes dissecting that one line from Bono, comedians are the top of the food chain, and looks up and to the right with a twinkle in his eye and that shit-eating side grin on his face, with his hands raised in the air as if he's ready to catch a shooting star. Like, I've seen some people bring knee pads into Rogan's studio, but that's got to be up there with the worst ball washing I've ever seen on JRE. Nobody is worse at reading a room than a comedian with a podcast.
By the way, tell me how rare that is. A lot of people can't read a fucking room.
Oof.
Right?
No.
And this kid can read a room. He can read a room. You read a room, I read a room, read a room. We go in, we see a situation. We can be put in a situation and we come out of that situation. You throw us in a room. We're not talking to each other. We come out with the exact same conclusions.
Every time. Usually.
Right away. And we were in a couple situations where everything was amazing. Like, it was like, wow, you're in this situation which couldn't be cooler and everybody would want to be there. And these people are amazing. And both of us come out and go like this. Not good people.
Yeah.
And you're like, there it is.
We were at that one dinner that one time. You could tell I was kind of zoned out. And you're like,
dude.
You're not buying it, huh? I went, I just don't care,
I remember
dude.
that so well.
If room reading was a sport, these guys would be the water boys. But seeing Rogan talk about stand-up comedy with people who have never actually seen him do it is some of the funniest shit you'll ever see on his podcast. Bono asked Rogan how he first fell in love with stand-up and when he decided to make it his life's ambition. And so Rogan gave him the full play-by-play rundown on how it all came together. And if you've never seen him on stage, this sounds like a match made in heaven. But for those of us who have seen Joe chew the scenery, hearing these stories for the 1 millionth time is pure comedy. Honestly, the irony is crazy.
It was an incredibly profound moment for me. I remember I got obsessed with Richard Pryor. I started buying Richard Pryor cassettes.
Wow.
I would buy like whatever I could. You could find them. And I just couldn't believe that someone could do that. That he could just, by talking, this theater filled with people were just falling down laughing. They're just blown away. What a crazy power to have. Like, what an unbelievable thing to be able to do with just your words. And then I saw Kinnison. I think that was the first moment where I went, oh, this is comedy too? Wow. Right. Okay, what is comedy? I was like, okay, this is comedy too. And the first thing I ever saw of him, I was actually introduced to him by a girl that I worked with. A girl that I worked with at a gym. I worked at the Boston Athletic Club. I was a trainer. And she was like, I saw HBO last night, and this comedian was so funny. And in the parking lot of this gym that we worked out, she did Sam Kinnison's bit of homosexual necrophiliacs paying a bunch of money to be with the freshest male corpses.
Oh,
have you ever seen the bit?
I have.
So the bit is the guy, he goes, imagine this, you're at the end of your life, I'm going to be alone with Jesus, and that's going to be great, I'm going to be in heaven, and hey, he starts rocking back and forth. What is this? It feels like someone's got a in my ass. You mean life keeps the ass even after you're dead. It never ends. It never ends. Ow, ow. She's doing this impression. She's lying on the parking lot, on her stomach, going back and forth. And I'm dying laughing. I was like, I got to see this.
That was good.
It was amazing.
You doing her doing him.
Oh, yeah. She did a great job. She had me howling.
The sad thing for me is how passionate Joe is about comedy and how desperately he wants to be accepted as a legitimate act. Somebody needs to seriously sit him down and explain that his whole comedy career has been one bad Sam Kinison impression, preferably Brendan Schaub. That would probably break the internet. But after that brief walk down memory lane, Rogan got into the weeds about the importance of bombing on stage, how he works out material, and the importance of messaging in his style of comedy.
Comedians don't get a chance to be subjective. It's not like Prince walks out and plays a whole new album and can go, they just don't get it. It's like, you're either funny or you're not.
Right.
You're going down in flames. Have you gone down in flames?
Oh, sure. Yeah. Oh, yeah.
What was your worst gig?
Oh, I've had so many. The thing about material is essentially like a calf that's newly born, and it has awkward legs, and it has to develop into a bull. But it takes a long time. It takes crafting. You have to sit with it. You have to go over some ideas come to you in full form, and some ideas you have to believe in them. And sometimes those bits will just bomb, and you have to just go, God, should I abandon this? Should I keep working on this?
Do you have a team of writers?
No.
Wow.
No, I just write everything myself.
You kidding?
No, always. Yeah, always have. The kind of stand-up that I do is supposed to be, here's the world through my eyes. This is how I'm seeing things. From the most ridiculous, awestruck, and laughing at everything perspective. And it has to be through my lens.
Wow, that's amazing.
Well, because if you can mock something, like you can have a position or an opinion on something, and someone can disagree strongly, but if they make everyone laugh at that position, now they've made a real point. Because if you go on stage and just have a bunch of opinions and just lecture people, there's people in the audience that go, well, f*** you, I feel differently. But if you could go on stage with that opinion and make people laugh at something they know they shouldn't be laughing at, like, oh my God, and you're like then you're introducing ideas into a person. It's a spoonful of sugar that helps the medicine go down.
I was saying to somebody recently, I'm not sure I trust people anymore who aren't a little bit funny.
Yeah.
I mean, funny in the not the funny peculiar.
Right, right.
There's a place for that too.
Right.
But people who make you laugh are open.
Yes. And also the contradictions of the world and how bizarre things are. Like, what are you focusing on? Like, you don't ever see the hypocrisy and the ludicrousness of just this existence, this temporary existence on a spinning orb hurling through the universe and concentrating on who gets to use what bathroom. If you don't see that, you're not paying all attention. You're not all in. You're certainly not balanced.
Those mushrooms were working very well for you.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, in God's country, that's the ticket.
That's beautiful. Wow. I'm so touched.
I don't know about you guys, but I'm personally holding out for Rogan's next comedy special titled A Spoonful of Sugar. I just had a thought though. As punishment for putting us through that, Bono should be forced to watch every one of Rogan's comedy specials back to back without any toilet breaks. Then I'd like to see him ask Rogan some questions afterwards. In fact, that should be mandatory for all JRE guests. They should all have to sit through at least one of his specials before sitting in front of the microphone. But the absolute blind hypocrisy of the way Rogan described his style of comedy is wild. Everything he was describing just there is the exact opposite of what he does. One of the biggest criticisms of his latest special, Burn the Boats, was that he was flogging 5-year-old jokes about the pandemic, being misgendered at the airport, and how cool it is to get high. For him to pretend that he's some master of irony and sarcasm, as if he's some high-level observational absurdist, while simultaneously missing the most mundane jokes on his podcast, will always amaze me more than anything he's ever done. And that includes the stool humping. And seeing Bono eating it up like that was an absolute peach Watcher's delight. This episode perfectly captured the state of JRE in 2025. Two has-beens name-dropping their way through a conversation that should have taken place over a dinner.
So you felt like that, like from the womb.
From the womb, I had
So
to get
you
this
felt
done.
like you had these things that you didn't get out in a previous lifetime, and now you feel like an unstoppable urge.
I have to. I remember all of that.
You remember coming out.
Remember being compressed. You remember being born. I remember being circumcised. Like people say, well, what business do you have coming in here talking about science and all that? You're an actor. Here I'm an Oscar-nominated actor that is known all around the world, face recognition, vocal recognition, all around the world. I've invented a new form of flight, tangential flight, the ability to fly around your own center of mass.
So most of us know Terrence Howard as a Hollywood actor. You may remember him from such movies as Crash, Hustle and Flow and Iron Man, as well as the TV series Empire. But one thing you might not know about him is that Terrence claims to have studied chemical engineering and applied materials, even claiming to have completed a PhD in chemical engineering from South Carolina State University. Except here's the problem. That university doesn't offer degrees in chemical engineering, and Pratt Institute, where he said he obtained his undergraduate degrees, shut its engineering program down in 1993. So there's no actual record of Terrence having attended university at all. But that's only the beginning. To say that controversy follows this guy around would be an understatement. But I'll get to all of that because, as you saw in the intro, he was the latest guest on the Joe Rogan Experience, and no, you're not mistaken, he opened the podcast by describing his memories from being in his mother's womb, which he's able to re-enter to tackle advanced math, physics, and chemistry. Now, if you think I'm joking, just you wait, because we're going to go through this step by step, so stick around. This was a wild one. And just to give you an idea of what we're dealing with here, these are some of the top comments from YouTube. Terrence Howard is Cat Williams' final form. When Cat Williams finishes reading his 3,000 books, he turns into Terrence Howard. If Cat Williams interviewed Terrence Howard, they would just stare at each other and nod. 3-hour podcast, 9 seconds in, I woke up inside my mother's womb. This is what non-JRE listeners think every episode is. This is the longest let him cook of all time. So yeah, like I said, this was a wild one, but let's go through some of his scientific theories before we get to all the controversial bits about his criminal history and getting fired by Marvel. First off, we've got his theory on 1 multiplied by 1 equaling 2 instead of 1.
How is it that multiplication, if it means to make more and increase in number, how is 1 times 1 equaling 1 part of the multiplication table? Now, I understand that if you're seeing it one time, but the moment that you had that add the times in there, that multiplicative indicator, that means there is more than 1. You know, that equal sign is supposed to show that there's a balance between these 2 numbers over here and a balance on this 1 over here. What happened to the other 1 in this equation? It didn't equate. And then I took the square root of that number. I took the square root of 2, because all this started in 3rd grade. I was arguing with my teacher because we're talking about the square root of 100.
Okay, so if you're wondering what in the actual fuck he's talking about, let me explain. 3 multiplied by itself gives 9, and 3 plus 3 is 6. Apparently, that makes sense because 3 squared is a higher number than 3 plus 3. But then we have 2 squared equaling 4 and 2 plus 2 equaling 4. They're the same, and Terrence doesn't like that because one is a multiplication and the other is addition. He thinks multiplication should be bigger. And then there's the real problem. 1 squared is 1, but 1 plus 1 is 2. He can't have that because how can a multiplication be lower than the addition of a number with itself? So because 1 plus 1 is 2, which is higher than 1 squared, which is 1, therefore 1 squared must be 2, and that's his proof. He simply believes that when you're using the same numbers, the multiplied result should inherently always be greater than the result of the addition. But just keep that one in your back pocket for now because I want to move on to his reordering of the periodic table. Terrence has a theory that the ordering of the elements on the table fails to realize the true relationship between the elements, and he uses this as a building block for Jesus walking on water. Now, again, if you think I'm joking, just wait because we're only getting started.
And when you say rebuild the periodic table, what do you mean specifically?
Well, the way the periodic table is laid out, the the periodic table they have now.
Let's see.
It
a
looks
periodic
it looks
table.
like a
Pull up
box.
the image.
You'll see hydrogen sitting all the way over there by itself, but they don't show that hydrogen has the same tone as carbon.
What do you mean by tone?
Same tone, same key of E. 40.5 hertz. The next one would be like 81 hertz. You go to silicon, it will double up and would be 162 hertz. You'll go to cobalt, and it'll be 324 hertz.
Okay, hold up. Let's try to understand this for a moment. Terence is saying that the periodic table as it exists today doesn't accurately depict the tonal relationship between each element, which he understands to be the frequency at which each element vibrates. So like he said, hydrogen should be grouped with other elements like carbon that vibrate in the key signature of E. Now, he actually used this theory to patent a design for a propulsion system that he intends to develop with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos to send into space to clean up all the debris left up there that's cluttering our solar system. But let me come back to that because he actually gave a much better explanation of this theory when he did the Oxford Union interview back in 2017.
They used to think that energy, the body transferred or understood the energy information through electricity. They're finding out it's through frequency. Well, guess what hydrogen sounds like? It's a key of E. Information used to be thought about as just electrical information passing on. But I've got a question for you. Have you ever been at a party with some of your friends you ain't seen in 10 years, but y'all was like 14, you hung out and there's a song that came on and you was like, "Ugh," and everybody got up and was live at that moment. Now say 10 years later you got a friend with you. He's a good guy, but he wasn't there when me and my boys formed this. So when that song comes on, our DNA tightens. There's a particular song, a scale in the genomes for each and every one of us. Now, when that song is played, when your particular prime resonant frequency is played, guess what happens? Your DNA celebrates and tightens. Everything else gets pushed out. Harmonic wave resequencing. So say that the F over F sharps of the oxygen, the green, is only hitting at an F. Why? Because there's another frequency coming in from a generator over there. That's changing and causing it to change. So this F now hits the oxygen. Instead of hitting as an F sharp, it hits as an F, so when it hits the carbon at an E, it doesn't hit it quite right, so the domino don't file right. So the next domino hits wrong. And so now we have malformation happening within our DNA because the frequencies are being pushed off. But when we hear our tone, we tighten back up. So yeah, I'm in the process of building the harmonic wave resequencer with another doctor who has been able to successfully cure AIDS and cancer.
Okay, all right. So what he's saying here is that you can use this harmonic wave resequencing to repair malformations in our DNA where there's a class of frequencies which is supposedly the cause of defects such as cancer and AIDS. He came to this theory through the observation that a group of friends can enjoy the memory of a song together at a future date through a process that binds their DNA together, which happens naturally via the frequency mapped into their DNA from the initial experience of hearing the music together due to the specific compounds generated by the harmonic frequencies of the music. So instead of it just being a shared memory amongst friends, Terence believes it's the effect of the music's frequency on our collective DNA. As you can imagine, most people think he's full of shit, which he believes is part of a global conspiracy to silence him.
Man, don't turn my phone off. Don't do that. Every time I get ready, well, because I know they're watching me right now, and they're mad at me.
Who's they? You think they f with your phone?
Oh, I'm sure of it, because now I have to turn it off for a
Do you
second.
ever drop your phone? You ever drop your phone?
I've dropped my phone a number of times, but...
Do you ever think that might be what's going on with your phone?
And then I buy another phone, and the same thing happens. I'm 5
you get
minutes...
burners?
I used to, but then my wife would think I was cheating.
So you could probably tell there that Rogan wasn't buying Terence's conspiracy theory that he's being watched and monitored by the government, but then something started happening in Rogan's studio that had never happened before.
No, nothing's happening. My computer just froze again is what I'm trying to say. Something freaked out my computer. I might have to just try to...
You want to reboot?
I mean, I think it already did, but I'll try again. Hold on. We have to pause.
Yeah.
Okay, no worries. It's the f***ing government, man.
You think it's not?
I think it is sometimes. I assume they listen to everything I say.
They do.
I'm sure.
They do. You
It's
took
a lot of boring shit.
No, I'm having a computer freak out again.
Oh no.
Yeah, it's every time I'm shrinking this video, it's just like it doesn't like to do this. I have no control over the computer. Alt tab does nothing. Escape does nothing.
Yo.
Spacebar does nothing.
Maybe you dropped your computer.
Maybe you drop your computer, Jamie. Jamie, you need a burner computer.
Yeah, they don't want their God killed. Gravity has been the thing they've been holding on to from the beginning, and it's just an effect of electricity. It's the draft left over by electricity.
All right, so who knows what's really going on in there? Maybe Mike Baker's bugs are playing up, or maybe it's just a coincidence. It's hard to say, but you probably caught at the end there that Terrence doesn't believe gravity is real. He has an alternative theory that electricity is the force that creates gravity. Now, like almost every theory he discussed on the podcast, he provided almost no proof of it, but like I said earlier, he has around 100 registered patents, and one of his patents was apparently the origin of virtual and augmented realities, which he believes was stolen by the biggest companies in the world to create their own VR technology. Now, this one is actually pretty convincing.
You want to know what my first patent was? The entire AR, VR world was built off of my first patent that was abandoned because I paid $260,000 for the worldwide patent. But then my agents kept, my lawyers kept sending me these maintenance fees and annuities. And I'm like, these folks are just trying to shake me down. I'm not going to pay this. And look at all the companies. And if you look at the patent, these companies have all earned, they have multi-billion-dollar companies they've built off of my patent. Just roll through.
Sony, Microsoft, Amazon,
Hewlett Packard.
yeah.
Keep going, keep going, keep going.
This is
IBM,
crazy.
and it's still making money. This patent has earned over $7 trillion. But this is proof that my stuff
Is legit.
is legit.
So Jamie actually pulled up the details of his VR patent, and it was basically an input-output concept design for virtual reality to be controlled by users in remote locations, all feeding from at least one server via their own control unit and digital processor, which works by transmitting instructions by detecting the viewer's position. Now here's the interesting part. All those companies that were listed in the previous clip that they were going through had all cited his patent in their own VR patents. How relevant his patent was to their own products and concept designs is another question, but that's something you can actually look up for yourself and confirm. And that's usually how these things go, right? These theories are clouded in details that never get explained properly, but they're used to make vast sweeping statements like, this is proof that my stuff is legit. And that's where Rogan's skepticism crept in, especially when Terrence started talking about what happened with Neil deGrasse Tyson, who's somebody Rogan respects and has had on the podcast several times.
I reached out to Neil deGrasse Tyson. He was like, hey, man, yeah, I'd love for you to come on my show, do my radio, do my TV thing. I would love that. I was like, yeah, but I've got something I want to introduce to you. And it was only 36 pages. It was a treatise. But I started it off with 1 × 1 = 2. And he went in on my treatise, wrote, redlined everything. But then he started attacking the 1 × 1 = 2.
This is not his field of study, though, right?
No, he's astrophysicist. He's an astrophysicist.
I wish I could really, truly understand exactly what you're saying, because I'm kind of getting it, and you're doing a great job explaining it. But if you're right, that really changes everything.
Everything.
And it accounts for why physics kind of hits a stalling point. If you're right, so many people are wrong.
Everyone's wrong. Oh, well, the universe backs me up. And I have the proof of it. If this truth cost me this lifetime, then wonderful, I've accomplished what I needed to do. Because I think in the previous lifetime, I was supposed to do these things and I didn't.
So you felt like that, like from the womb?
From the womb, I had to get this done.
So you felt like you had these things that you didn't get out in a previous lifetime, and now you feel like an unstoppable urge.
I have to.
Yeah, so there are so many other theories and concepts that Terrence discussed on the podcast with Rogan. Way too much for me to cover here, but I want to tie all of this up for you so you can understand where all of his theories lead to. You just heard him reference the new form of flight that he invented. So remember what he was saying in the Oxford interview about the different elements on the periodic table having the same frequency, and therefore they can be combined to make compounds that can remap and regenerate our DNA, which his friend has already used to cure cancer and AIDS. Well, he basically extended that same theory into a propulsion system design that uses the collective pitch of hydrogen to propel itself infinitely. And so he wants Rogan to hook him up with Elon Musk and Jeff Bezos so they can fund the production of his propulsion system and use it to clean up all the space junk. You may have heard a similar theory about how the pyramids were constructed in ancient Egypt. Some researchers believe that the Egyptians used frequency and vibration to make the stone easier to move through the use of sound waves that vibrated the stone. So Terence's collective pitch propulsion theory isn't necessarily a new idea. Maybe in a previous life he was an Egyptian cat or something, and that's where he got the idea. Who knows? But it's when Terence points to the deeper implications of his theories that it all starts to really fall apart for me. Now, I'm obviously not smart enough to really critique his theories in a meaningful way, apart from simply pointing out basic logical flaws. But when he starts using his theories as proof that God exists or that Jesus literally walked on water, it makes it really hard to take him seriously.
We are all just one great being.
Yeah.
You know, that's what they forget. We're not separate. The universe is probably one cell inside of some superorganism.
Right.
We're all God. That's what Jesus was talking about. That's what Buddha was talking about. It's recognizing the divinity in you. Now I want to show you electricity in this space, which will be the next one. And you'll see 5 linchpins bonding. And you'll see that it collapses the dodecahedron. And that's the release of energy, but it'll still make that same tetrahedral space. So when I talk about materials engineering now being able to be manipulated, and you could see that the dodecahedron has been collapsed, and these 5 will keep bonding with other 5s, building predictable structures. And then those will bond and make larger. This is Jesus walking on water. This is the proof in the pudding.
Yeah, I don't know, guys. Maybe he's speaking metaphorically, but if he literally means that's how Jesus walked on water, yeah, I gotta call bullshit. And it's funny because Rogan's discussed Terence's theories on his podcast before, and he seems to have changed his tune quite a bit over the years.
Did you see the guy from Empire's speech, interview?
Yes. Yes,
Like that seems
Terrence-
almost like he's not pretending. Like if he's pretending, he's doing a better job acting than Joaquin Phoenix.
Well, Terrence Howard, the guy who interviewed me for Rolling Stone, told me that Terrence Howard is like a legitimate genius.
Maybe he figured it all out.
I think he got high as on DMT. That's what it sounds like. He's talking about
Figured it all out.
and-
Yeah, it does sound like that, right?
100%.
But the inability to explain it, just kind of like it's all connected.
But he was not explaining it very well, but very articulately. He was like, oh, this is like shockingly coherent for a ridiculous thing to say.
So I'm not sure what compelled Rogan to change his mind and give Terence an opportunity to speak freely on his podcast. Rogan seems to be searching for these kinds of conversations more and more lately, which is a bit of a throwback to the old JRE days, and considering he came back onto YouTube this year, it kind of makes sense that he's trying to go back to the old JRE formula. But as for Terence, his controversies extend further than his scientific theories. Like I alluded to at the beginning, he's been accused and charged of multiple assaults, abuse, and harassment, most of which were against women. He even admitted to hitting his first wife in that Rolling Stone interview he mentioned from 2015, which he believes they used against him to discredit his theories.
Can I bring you back to the Rolling Stone thing, though, because you kind of abandoned it?
They had an agenda.
Yeah.
Because remember, at the same time, they were calling me a wife beater and all of those things. And then I put out the video showing what that same woman that had painted in a black eye, those pictures weren't made at the police station or at the hospital. She took those pictures herself, and she was blackmailing me.
So it's alleged that Terence appeared at his estranged wife's house back in 2001, broke in and chased her into the backyard, punching her in the face twice. Apparently, his brother had to step in and end the assault, but in the end, he pleaded guilty to disturbing the peace. Now, I think it's strange that those allegations led to a guilty plea of disturbing the peace when the charges were for assault, terroristic threats, harassment, and stalking. It sounds like he accepted a plea bargain of some sort, possibly due to a lack of evidence, but these kinds of charges kept coming over the years, and all of them had a similar theme to them of harassment, threats, and stalking. He's been married 4 times to 3 different women. He himself grew up in an abusive household. After his father was convicted of manslaughter and served time in prison, his parents got divorced and he was raised by his great-grandmother. So it sounds like he had a pretty rough childhood. I also want to say, though, I think he's an awesome actor. Even just in the podcast with Rogan here, you can see how much energy and charisma he has, and they actually spoke about how he got screwed over by Marvel and fired from his 3-movie deal.
You know, I was doing Iron Man.
Yeah.
Out of nowhere, that gets taken away. We did a 3-picture deal with Marvel, a 3-picture deal, $4.5 million for the first one, $7.5 to $8 million for the second one, $12 million for the third. We signed it. They come back to me the week that my mother died, and they said, yeah, we want Terrence, but we want to come back for $1 million instead of the $8 million that we had agreed to. And my agent had an emotional reaction to a business decision, and he said, F you, and hung up the phone. Well, immediately they go to Don Cheadle. But instead of just doing that, they had to spin, he was terrible on set and all of these things, and went through all this stuff.
That reminded me of what happened to Dave Chappelle when he started to speak up about Hollywood executives and how his own lawyers screwed him over with dodgy contracts that gave them the rights to all of his work in perpetuity. And so they went on a publicity campaign to paint Chappelle as a junkie who was out of control and couldn't be trusted. I don't know the details of what happened between Marvel and Terrence Howard, other than what he said publicly, but it wouldn't surprise me if they simply wanted to get rid of him and replace him because of all the controversies surrounding him, so they decided to make the excuse that he was difficult to work with. I did also read that he got screwed over by the agency that represented him when he was on Empire. Apparently, the story goes that the agency tried to get more of their actors hired to work on Empire so they could take a larger commission overall, and for that to happen, Terrence had to take a pay cut or just didn't get what he thought he was worth. He was getting paid over $300,000 per episode, so we're talking really big numbers here. But if that's true and his agency did do the dodgy on him like that, it could potentially be illegal, given that they're contracted by the artist to represent the artist's best interests, not the interests of the agency. But as for his appearance on JRE, Rogan seems to be testing the waters with Terrence to see what his theories are and simply try to understand where he's coming from. And when you consider how interesting and outlandish his theories are, as well as his charisma and passion for engineering and science, it's pretty obvious why Rogan thought it would make for a good podcast.
I feel like we could do 100 of these podcasts, but I think we should wrap this one up. We just did about 3 hours.
I saw when I was looking at a lot of your stuff, I was like, damn, he'd be sitting there talking for 3 damn hours.
You just flew
What
by.
are they talking about? But we haven't even covered half of these things.
Let's do it again.
I would love to.
Let's do it again. And I'm very interested to see, because I'm sure there's going to be a lot of people that want to be able to talk to you about this.
I'm leaving those things with you.
Beautiful. I'll keep
just
them right
so
here.
that you can, and if you go into my book, you can walk through and I explain.
I'm going to listen to this
all of
podcast about
stuff.
30 times just to try to get a slippery grip on any of it.
One of the criticisms of Rogan's style is that he doesn't prepare for his podcasts, he doesn't do any research, but I think Rogan himself sees that as a feature and not a bug. From his perspective, he's just having a conversation with people he finds interesting and then leaving it open for them to come back and debate their theories with other experts. We saw recently how Rogan had on Graham Hancock to debate with archaeologist Flint Dibble, and for those of you who are wondering, yes, that's actually his real name. So I hope he has some of his other recent guests back on the podcast to debate against experts in their fields, instead of just forgetting about it and moving on to the next guest he finds interesting. Anyway, that's it from me. I hope you enjoyed this breakdown. Let me know what you guys think in the comments below, and remember to go and check out my Patreon via the link below if you're interested in additional uncensored content. Otherwise, if you're not a regular of this channel yet, hit the subscribe button and don't forget to give me a thumbs up if you ended up enjoying this video. Thanks for watching. I'll catch you in the next one.
Oh my God.
Is that your phone?
Yeah, that's my detox thing. I'm supposed to detox right now.
How do you detox? You detox on a timer? What do you do?
There's my wife got me these things.
Yeah, you look about 15 years younger. Now.
Yeah, and that's because of her. I still smoke my cigarettes.
Why do you do that?
I'm a crackhead. I don't know.
I have CTE for sure. I got a little of that.
Yeah.
Welcome back to another video. This is such a big week. I've got a bunch of videos coming to you guys, and today Shane Gillis made his 13th appearance on JRE, which was recorded just over a week ago on Tuesday, December 5th. Now, for those of you who don't know who he is, basically Shane is probably the best up-and-coming comic at the moment. And when I say up-and-coming, I mean compared to the comedy greats, so that says a lot. He's got 2 comedy specials under his belt, and he also hosts a podcast, which I'll play a clip from a little bit later. But the thing to know about Shane is this. In 2019, he was hired as a featured cast member at SNL, but literally within hours of the announcement, several clips from his podcast suddenly resurfaced, where he used supposedly ethnic and gay slurs, which prompted SNL to fire him a few days later, even though he apologized that same day the clips resurfaced and caused a stir. So then fast forward to July of 2021, Shane made his first appearance on the Joe Rogan Experience, which we'll take a look at towards the end of this video. But here's the thing, right? Gillis is probably one of the least offensive, funniest comedians going around today. Joe Rogan, on the other hand, is probably one of the worst famous comedians in history, right next to Bert Kreischer and Brendan Schaub, obviously 2 of his creations. So when Shane first went on JRE, Rogan completely misread his style of humor, and it made for an incredibly awkward but entertaining episode. Now, as for today's show, you can really see how far both Shane and Rogan have come together. If you're a JRE listener, you'll have noticed a few things that have been getting worse over the course of this year. For example, Rogan's incessant rants about the importance of ice baths, saunas, vitamins, and working out. So now that Shane Gillis is a card-carrying member of the Brogan universe, Joe's got him into working out at his studio with a few other, less talented hack comedian buddies of his on the regular. They even got The Rock in on the action a couple of weeks ago. And so this episode with Shane started off with the same boring conversation about working out, taking vitamins, and eating healthy. But now that Shane's settled in a little bit more, he's becoming a pro at steering the conversation in the right direction, effortlessly dropping zingers here and there to stop Rogan from going into autopilot. Check it out.
Bro, how fun are these workouts? Changes your day, right?
Yeah, it makes the day better. I don't know. I literally don't know how you do this.
What do you mean?
You're like, oh, you're gonna feel so good, dude. I get to the club, I'm literally falling asleep. I'm sore.
You gotta start taking vitamins.
I take some vitamins.
Do you?
Yeah.
What are you taking?
Take vitamin B.
Yeah. Okay.
D.
Okay.
Pause. C.
Okay.
Take some zinc.
Oh, okay.
That's it. Those
What
are
are
the
you
4.
getting, like a multivitamin? What, you
Yeah,
getting,
whatever
pack?
the CVS things is.
Oh, okay.
Those yellow. You know what I'm talking about?
It's probably been on the shelf since the 70s.
Okay.
Yeah.
I don't think they're doing anything. I heard zinc makes you come harder. I haven't noticed a big result, but
Zinc is difficult to get into your bloodstream. You need an ionophore. If you're going to take zinc, you need something. Quercetin.
Ionophore.
Yeah, ionophore is super important.
I'm not close to worrying about it like that. I'm working on like bread.
Bread's bread.
tough, dude. I'll worry about ionophores in a couple years.
Bread's tough.
So after Rogan got through his daily Brogan talking points that we've all heard a million times, he moved on to his latest obsession, protein waffles.
I did find some protein waffles. What are they called? Is it Viking waffles? See if you find that.
And so after Jamie received his instructions and pulled it up, Rogan shared his newfound passion for protein waffles. Sorry, I can't say it without laughing. But as you can imagine, Shane was completely uninterested in Rogan's waffles and took the conversation in a slightly different direction.
21 grams of protein, 3 grams of sugar, 5 grams of carbs, 200 calories. Look at that. And they're good. They can taste like a real waffle.
People love Vikings.
Who doesn't love Vikings?
And Irish people.
The people that were out on the
People
shore.
for 500 years.
Bro, they fucked everybody up forever.
Yeah.
They're the reason why the people in Iceland are so good at strongman competitions. You know, those guys like the Mountain
Yeah.
from Game of Thrones.
Yeah, there's
Where do you
freaks.
Where do you think that those genes come from?
Yeah, they need an eruption up there. We need to get rid of these guys.
A little bit of a volcano.
We can't have these guys. This is my Irish ancestry coming through. We got to get rid of these.
Now, just before we go on, there's something else you should know about Shane Gillis. Don't be deceived by his big dorky appearance. He's a massive bookworm who loves to study history and point out all the funny contradictions from wars and various seminal moments throughout history. So when Rogan started talking about Vikings, Shane couldn't help but call him out on something that Rogan has been peddling for years, which turns out to be almost completely false.
That show Vikings. You ever watch that show?
No, I heard it's great.
F***ing great.
I was afraid it was going to be like, because they did like women.
Oh, they kill everybody.
All right, good.
Everybody.
No,
gets
I mean
slaughtered.
like the badass kick-ass woman characters. Do they have that?
They have a couple.
That
but-
usually takes me out of a.
No, they're realistic.
Okay.
I mean, they're not like f***ing up all the dudes or anything like
Yeah.
that.
The old Conor McGregor woman.
But they
I don't love it.
announced a sequel. Is the girl in this? Oh, it's Netflix.
And the armor takes me out of it. It looks.
Why?
It's a little too Game of Thrones. You know, show what a real Viking looked like.
What did they really look like?
They looked like shit, dude. They were like 5, 6. They were not these giant.
Well, how does the Mountain come from? Where does he come from then?
They.
How do you get
I
a
think they were
7
wearing
foot
like
tall,
felt
350 pound
shirts.
dude?
They looked like dead.
That's
Look at
what
that.
they really
They look
look
like
like?
hobbits, dude.
What is that? That's.
I
Not
mean,
real.
that's not them, but
That's not real.
Oh man, the amount of times I've heard Rogan wax lyrical about these ancient giant Vikings with supernatural strength and how they have superior genetics, and it must have been something in their water or whatever. Well, it turns out that it was just a myth and the stuff of legend. And when Jamie started pulling up facts, Rogan wasn't very happy that his bubble had been burst. I mean, what's next? Santa isn't real? Shh, don't tell him.
As for the male warrior caricature, historians doubt they actually wore cartoonish horned helmets in battle. Oh, come on.
I know, man.
In fact, only one preserved Viking helmet has materialized in Scandinavia, and it was horn-free. Only one? Which appeared with the sole surviving helmet. One fucking suit of chainmail and one helmet. This was likely worn exclusively by elites and professional warriors despite its common appearance in mainstream depictions.
But what I really want to emphasize here for you guys is how far Shane Gillis has come in his appearances on JRE and how he's well and truly developing into an elite podcast guest. Now, if you think that sounds cringy, let me explain. As all my regulars already know, the whole Brogan podcast universe is one big circle jerk. They go around having the same conversations on each other's podcasts so they can throw in 200 ad reads in every single episode and get their bag. So when someone like Shane came along, he became somewhat of a statistical anomaly on the podcast circuit. Not only is he a completely normal, unpretentious dude, but he's also deceivingly intelligent. Watch how he continues to steer the conversation in the right direction through his witty sense of humor and saves us from Rogan's long, drawn-out dribble. Oh, this one's good.
They just keep making them so cool.
Yeah, they make them real cool. And they're a bunch of murderers, and you like them.
Yeah, I don't cheer for them.
No?
No, I don't like the Vikings.
Because of your culture.
Because of my culture. No, they're just. I think they're overrated.
Really?
Yeah.
Overrated.
Everything about them's rumors. They're like, oh, they discovered America first. It's like, no.
I think they did.
Yeah, dude, you got to give Columbus his due.
Columbus gets no due.
Everybody hates Columbus.
He's a sucker.
Bro,
did you ever read that one?
Bro.
One,
did it, dude.
he didn't even. He landed in the Bahamas.
Who cares? That's crazy. He did that.
Did you ever hear that one? There's one priest that traveled with Columbus that wrote those horrific stories of what they did to the Native Americans.
Snitch. Snitch. Guys, you're not allowed to go wild. You cross the ocean, you're going wild.
So I should say, believe it or not, I'm actually a big fan of Podcast Joe, but after over 5,000 hours of podcasting for more than a decade, he's starting to get a little stale and repetitive. But to give him credit, in this latest episode with Shane Gillis, you can tell he's a lot lighter, he seems happier and more easygoing. And I'm glad that Shane's able to bring that out of him, which made for a pretty decent episode. I mean, I really enjoyed it. They spoke about everything from gypsies to whacking off to athletes, movies, God and the universe, and heaps of other weird and wacky stories. This was my kind of podcast, but then they got into the phenomenon of Taylor Swift, which led them into Kanye.
Is there a male act that's even close?
No. Kanye probably before all that shit went down.
I don't think he
he was not
close.
that big. No. But she wasn't that big back then either, right?
Yeah.
Like when
But he made that bitch famous.
Oh my God, he did. He fucked up.
I made that bitch famous.
He did.
He rules.
He does rule. He says a lot of wild shit.
He's having fun.
I hope so.
Well, no.
I bet his new album's going to be a banger.
Yeah.
You push that dude, but you push that dude in a corner, I bet he comes out swinging. I bet this new is a banger.
Yeah, he's the best.
Isn't he in like Saudi Arabia or something recording it?
He was. I know he was definitely in Italy getting his dick sucked on a boat for a little
bit of that.
And then,
but then he was in
Japan or
recording at least part of it.
He might
in
be
the Middle
Sasuke
East.
or whatever that guy's name was. I think he's in Japan.
All right, I just had flashbacks to this moment here.
If I get fired here, whatever, I'll just go do Joe Rogan next week and I'll be fine. Anyway, I thought that was funny. No?
What?
I was like, I
Is that what
literally
you thought?
I literally thought that.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, I thought it'd be funny.
Well, it could have been funny.
Yeah.
I was booked up though.
No, it's fine. It was just funny to truly. That was a conversation I actually had.
Really?
In Lorne Michaels' office in the middle of that.
That's hilarious.
So that clip from Shane's first JRE appearance went absolutely viral and haunted him for months. I'll come back to that and give you the full context in a moment, but that little jab that Shane threw about Kanye getting a missile hickey on a boat in Italy went straight over Rogan's head. A couple of months ago, Kanye and his Aussie girlfriend Bianca were busted by paparazzi after she was photographed giving him a mouth hug on a boat in Venice. They actually ended up getting banned from the boat rental company, and the photos of her giving mouth to South Resuscitation made it all over the world. But it was just funny that Rogan clearly had no idea what he was talking about and brushed it off in his signature style. When this happened the first time on their first podcast together, it really bothered Shane. He beat himself up about it so bad, and he actually brought it up twice after it happened in the same podcast. For those of you who don't know, Shane was joking about when he was fired by SNL, like I said at the beginning, saying it didn't matter because he'd just go on JRE and get that Rogan bump, which would effectively save his comedy career. In hindsight, he obviously didn't need it, but like we saw before, it didn't click for Joe and he left Shane hanging. Super awkward. But like I said, Shane brought it up twice after that, just before the first hour mark and then again after the second hour. Clearly, it was bothering him.
One more.
One more. I'm going to have 4 more after that. Said I was going to do your podcast joke.
Oh, sorry about that. I wasn't sure. I
Damn,
was
dude,
going
that thing's
somewhere
been
else.
in my head for 5 minutes or however long it's been. You know,
That?
Saving
Really?
Private Ryan when he gets the ringing in his
sorry.
ears?
I thought there was more to it. I was just like letting it
You're
hang
like-
there in the air.
Dude, I like felt my face go flush. I was like, oh, I blew it. Dude, go back and watch the tape on that. That's going to be rough.
Well, I'm sorry I didn't give you enough.
No,
I was
just thought
hanging
it was,
there.
It was just funny how confident I was at the time. Kill myself, dude. I f***ed up. 5, 6 drinks. I blew it, dude. This is my big opportunity.
Have some more whiskey. You'll be fine.
Yeah, dude, I'll get confident. It's the last thing this podcast needs.
You're not confident yet? You should be
I'm
confident.
getting there. I'm pretty good.
Pretty
right
good.
now.
Should be confident.
I really do want to. I mean, that part, that SNL part was great. There's one moment where I was like, and then I was like, I'll just go on Joe Rogan. And you were like, what?
I was waiting for more.
I
was
know.
confused.
But
I should have helped you there.
Dude, you should have seen my face just like. Like it was fully like.
That was my failure as much as yours. I thought about having you on, and I thought about like me even rescheduling people, but I was like this guy's just got to go through this.
And so even after he kept bringing it up and Rogan apologized and seemed generally bummed out that he didn't get what he meant straight away, Shane brought it up and tried to clear the air again on his own podcast afterwards and had a good little laugh about it.
And then everyone would see that I'm actually great.
I'm going to try it. Oh, just kill me.
Dude.
kill me right now.
Nightmare.
Yeah, I bombed on there, and that was bad, dude. That was
Yeah.
cutting our heads off.
Yeah.
I wish someone would have cut my head off
Came down.
right then, dude.
And that was early in the
I
episode.
was
too.
Jamie
What was
would
that?
have
30 minutes in.
Red face, just like
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
It is
You know,
great. Doesn't he still not get the joke?
He gets it.
He gets it now.
Yeah, he understood it then. He thought. I mean, there is a part of the joke where there's something underlying it. If it was about you, you'd be like, "You're accusing me of not helping you." That's the part he took from it.
Yeah, it makes sense.
But the joke was I was arrogant and stupid, and I was like, I'll just go on Rogan. I don't give a f. He's definitely gonna have me on.
He's like, wait, what?
And he was like, "Who are you?"
Look, I actually liked the fact that Shane was so hung up on that whole episode. For most of us watching, we could see that he was just trying to have a laugh or whatever, say something funny. And the fact that he felt so stupid afterwards just goes to show how down to earth he is. I mean, compare that to the collection of stupid things that Bert Kreischer has said on JRE, or just in general. And I know I sing Shane's praises a lot, but I really think he's an important part of the podcasting universe at the moment, in a similar way to how Theo Von and Tim Dillon carried the space for so long. You can already see how all the Brogan comedy brats are latching on to Shane Gillis, getting him on their podcast as often as possible. And I know this is a big call, so wait for it. At this point, I think Rogan needs Gillis more than Gillis needs Rogan. Ooh, here we go. Let me explain. I've said this before about Bill Burr and Dave Chappelle, and there are a few other guests as well in this category, but particularly those two who are comedians. Whenever they go on JRE, it's an open and relaxed discussion, and Rogan opens up and he seems to have a good time, and they're the best episodes. But I think the reason is that Rogan respects those guys because they give him comedy legitimacy. And that's what Rogan's about these days. He's got the comedy club, he's putting on more and more comedians onto JRE, he's moving into legacy mode, and it seems like stand-up comedy is where his heart lies. So for me, I kind of feel like Gillis is turning into a Bill Burr, Dave Chappelle style of comedian guest that gives Rogan legitimacy. And the dead giveaway is the way that they don't always agree with him on everything, and they can push back comfortably, kind of like a real conversation between two normal people, Compare that to, say, Brendan Schaub, for example, who'll say one thing, and then when Rogan disagrees, Bupper will immediately agree with Rogan 100%. So that's what I mean when I say Rogan needs Gillis more than Gillis needs